The familiar scent of leather and coffee hit me as I walked into my father's office, but something felt different that morning. The family photos that once lined his mahogany desk were gone, replaced by sleek, modern art pieces I'd never seen before. My mother's portrait, which had watched over this room for 15 years since her passing, was nowhere to be seen. I'm Ciara, and until that moment I thought I knew exactly who I was and where I belonged. My mother and father built Cunningham Solutions from nothing, and I'd spent the last decade making sure her vision lived on through every decision we made. "Darling, perfect timing," my father's voice boomed as he emerged from the conference room, Eleanor clinging to his arm like she'd been there all along. "We're having a family dinner tonight. There's something special we need to discuss." Elena's red lips curved into what might have passed for a smile, but her eyes remained cold. "Yes, Ciara, you must come. Willie and I have such exciting news." I forced myself to smile back. "Wouldn't miss it, Elena." That evening, sitting at our family's antique dining table, I watched Elena pour my father's wine with practiced precision. The diamond on her left hand caught the light, making me wish I'd had something stronger than water. "We're getting married," my father announced, beaming. "And we have some exciting changes planned for the company." "Changes." I set down my fork. "What kind of changes?" Eleanor leaned forward, her voice honey-sweet. "Willie and I have been discussing modernization, new direction, fresh perspectives. The company's numbers are the best they've ever been," I countered. "Our client satisfaction rate—" "Darling," my father interrupted, "sometimes tradition needs to make way for innovation. Elena has extensive experience in corporate restructuring." "Restructuring?" The word felt like acid on my tongue. "Dad, Mom built this company on relationships, on trust. Your mother would have wanted us to grow," he said firmly. "Times change, Ciara." I looked around the dining room, at the walls that held 30 years of family history. My mother's voice echoed in my memory. "Business is about more than profit, sweetheart. It's about leaving something meaningful behind." "Of course," I said quietly, watching Elena whisper something in my father's ear. Times change. Later that night, as I left, I noticed my mother's portrait had been moved to the hallway closet, face down behind old coats. Something cold settled in my stomach. Not just anger or fear, but certainty. Whatever was coming, I needed to be ready. I pulled out my phone and texted Brianna, "Need your legal expertise. Something's not right at Cunningham. Breakfast tomorrow?" Her response was immediate. "I'm there. 8 a.m., usual spot?" "Perfect," I typed back, my fingers trembling slightly. "Bring your detective hat." "Look at this." Brianna slid her tablet across the cafe table. "These transfer documents were filed last week. The company's ownership structure has completely changed." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth as I scrolled through the documents. "A family trust? But I'm not even listed as a beneficiary." "It gets worse." Brianna leaned forward, lowering her voice. "The trust gives Eleanor full control of all major decisions. You're effectively being pushed out." My phone buzzed. A company-wide email announcing an emergency family meeting at 2 p.m. I showed it to Brianna, who frowned. "Don't go alone," she warned. The conference room felt smaller than usual as I walked in. Eleanor sat at my father's right hand, where my mother used to sit. Where I used to sit. "Ciara," my father smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Please, have a seat." "I'd rather stand." Elena cleared her throat. "We've called this meeting to discuss the company's new direction. As your father's fiancé and the new trustee—" "Trustee?" I interrupted. "When exactly did this happen?" "Now, darling," my father began, "this is what's best for everyone. Elena has experience." "Experience in what? Taking over family businesses?" The words shot out before I could stop them. Elena's face hardened. "Your ambition is clouding your judgment, Ciara. This isn't personal." "Not personal?" I pulled out my phone, pulling up the documents Brianna had found. "These transfers were done without my knowledge. I'm a major shareholder." "Were," my father corrected quietly. "The shares were transferred to the family trust last week. It's already done." The room spun slightly. Mom built this company. She trusted you, trusted us, to keep her legacy alive. Your mother would have understood the need for change, he said, but he couldn't meet my eyes. I turned to leave, but Eleanor's voice stopped me. Don't make this difficult, Ciara. Accept the changes gracefully. I looked back at them, my father shrinking into his chair, and Eleanor, triumphant. Gracefully? Like how you gracefully moved Mom's portrait to a closet? The door slammed behind me as I left. In the parking lot, my phone buzzed with a text from Brianna. My office now. Found something big. 20 minutes later, I sat in Brianna's office, staring at the documents spread across her desk. See these signatures? She pointed. And these dates? Something's not adding up. These documents, I think they're fraudulent. I felt a strange calm settle over me. Show me everything. Are you sure? Once we start digging. They took everything my mother built, I said quietly. Now I'm going to take it back. These signature dates don't match the notary stamps, Brianna explained, spreading more documents across her desk. And look at this. The trust was backdated to appear established before your father's engagement. My phone lit up with another call from my father. 7th one today. I declined it. We need more, I said, rubbing my temples. This isn't enough to prove fraud. A knock at the door made us both jump. Raphael, my former mentor from the company's legal department, stood in the doorway. Hope I'm not interrupting, he said, closing the door behind him. Brianna called me. Raphael? But you left the company months ago. He sat down, loosening his tie. I left because I saw the warning signs. Elena's been planning this takeover for longer than you think. I've got proof. He pulled out a USB drive. Internal emails, deleted financial records, even recordings from board meetings that were never officially documented. As we reviewed the files, my hands started shaking. They've been siphoning company assets into shell corporations for months. Elena's specialty, Raphael nodded grimly. She's done this before. 3 other family businesses in the last decade. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from Cecilia, my mother's oldest friend. At your mother's favorite cafe. Come see me. Go, Brianna urged. Raphael and I will keep digging. We need all the support we can get. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Cecilia, who pushed a familiar leather-bound notebook across the table. Your mother kept records of everything, she said softly, including contingency plans in case something like this ever happened. She was always protecting you, even then. I opened the notebook, recognizing my mother's elegant handwriting. Why didn't you show me this before? Because she made me promise to wait until you needed it most. Read page 43. My eyes widened as I read. These are detailed instructions for triggering a company-wide audit and documentation of the original ownership structure. Your mother built fail-safes into the company's foundation, Cecilia explained. Things even your father doesn't know about. My phone lit up with a text from Brianna. Found the smoking gun. Elena's been involved in 3 corporate fraud cases. All settled out of court, all sealed. We can't let them get away with this, I said, clutching my mother's notebook. Cecilia reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Then don't. But remember, revenge isn't about destruction. It's about justice. Make it count. I nodded, feeling stronger than I had in days. Time to show them what happens when you underestimate the daughter who learned from the best. Your mother would be proud, Cecilia smiled. Now, let's make this right. The elevator doors opened to the executive floor and I walked straight into Eleanor's surprised face. Perfect timing. Ciara, she recovered quickly, plastering on her fake smile. We've missed you at the office. Have you? Or have you been too busy transferring company assets? Her smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. No. How about Riverside Industries or Mercury Corp? Both family businesses, both taken over by trusts, both bankrupted within 2 years. Ring any bells? The colour drained from her face. You've been digging. Oh, I've done more than dig. I held up a thick manila envelope. I have proof. Of everything. Whatever you think you have. Bank transfers, board meeting recordings, even those sealed court documents from your previous ventures. I stepped closer. Did you really think nobody would notice? Your father won't believe you, she hissed. He loves me. This isn't about love, it's about fraud. My father's office door opened. What's going on out here? Nothing, darling. Elena turned, but her voice shook. Just a little chat. Dad, I met his eyes. We need to talk. All of us. Now. Inside his office, I spread the documents across his desk. The trust is fraudulent, the transfers are illegal, and Elena, well, she has quite a history. These are lies, Elena snapped, but my father was already reading, his face growing paler with each page. The signatures, he whispered. These aren't mine. Eleanor? Willie, please. She reached for him, but he pulled away. I did it for us. For us? I laughed bitterly. Like you did it for the other families? Before their companies mysteriously collapsed and you walked away rich? My father slumped in his chair. Kiara, I never meant... Save it. I pulled out one final document. This is a court order freezing all company assets pending investigation. It was filed an hour ago. Elena lunged for the paper, but I stepped back. It's too late. The authorities have everything. You'll regret this, she snarled, grabbing her purse. You have no idea what you're doing. Actually, I do. For the first time in months, I know exactly what I'm doing. She stormed out, leaving my father and me in heavy silence. I'm so sorry, he finally said. I was blind. Yes, you were. I gathered the documents. The hearing is next week. Be there or don't. Either way, this ends now. As I walked out, my phone buzzed with a message from Brianna. Police just picked up Elena at the airport. She was trying to flee. I smiled, thinking of my mother's notebook. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying something. It's about protecting what matters most. The courthouse hallway buzzed with whispers as Elena's lawyer approached me. My client is willing to settle. Walk away now, and you can keep your position in the company. Not interested, I replied, straightening my jacket. Inside the courtroom, Eleanor sat with her legal team, wearing a conservative navy suit that screamed calculated innocence. My father sat alone in the back row, looking older than I'd ever seen him. All rise, the bailiff called. Elena's lawyer went for the throat immediately. Ms. Chiara is nothing more than a disgruntled daughter, Your Honour, angry about her father's new marriage and lashing out with baseless accusations. Brianna stood, calm and prepared. We have evidence of systematic fraud, Your Honour, multiple instances of document forgery, unauthorised transfers, and a pattern of similar behaviour across other companies. Objection, Elena's lawyer shot up. My client's past business dealings are not relevant. Overruled, the judge interrupted. Continue. Raphael took the stand first, presenting the internal emails and recordings. Elena's face grew harder with each piece of evidence. Then came the surprise witness. Please state your name, the clerk requested. Margaret Wilson, the elderly woman answered. Former CFO of Riverside Industries. Eleanor's sharp intake of breath echoed through the courtroom. Ms. Wilson, could you tell us about your experience with the defendant? She destroyed my family's company. Margaret's voice was steady. Used the same tactics, created a trust, forged documents, siphoned assets. By the time we discovered the truth, it was too late. Eleanor's lawyer jumped up. Your Honour, this testimony is prejudicial. It establishes a pattern, Brianna countered. A pattern we can prove. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Eleanor, would you like to take the stand? My client invokes her Fifth Amendment rights, her lawyer answered quickly. My father suddenly stood up. Your Honour, I'd like to testify. Eleanor spun around, eyes wide with panic. I was a fool, my father's voice cracked. I signed documents without reading them. I betrayed my daughter and my late wife's legacy. I'm here to make it right. Eleanor's lawyer requested a recess, but it was too late. The evidence was overwhelming. Given the severity of these allegations, the judge announced, I'm ordering an immediate freeze of all assets pending criminal investigation. Furthermore, I stopped listening, watching Elena's facade finally crack. She turned to glare at me, mouthing, You'll pay for this. but I felt nothing but peace. My phone vibrated, a text from Cecilia. Your mother would be so proud. Now, what's next? I smiled, already knowing the answer. The company wasn't just about profits or power. It was about building something meaningful. And I knew exactly how to do that. The board has voted unanimously, the chairman announced. Cunningham Solutions will be dissolved and restructured under new management. Elena's lawyer slumped in his chair while my father stared at his hands. The company my parents had built was officially over, but something else was about to begin. Raphael caught up with me in the parking lot. I heard you're already making moves. New company? More than that, I smiled. I'm rebuilding from scratch. Different name, different mission. Want in? His eyes lit up. What's the plan? Back at Brianna's office, I spread out the blueprints for my new venture. We focus on ethical business consulting, help family businesses protect themselves from exactly what Elena tried to do. Turning pain into purpose, Brianna nodded approvingly. I'm in, but you'll need startup capital. Already handled. I pulled out my mother's notebook. Remember those fail-safes? She had investment accounts hidden away. Clean money, completely separate from the company. My phone rang. A former client I'd worked with for years. Ciara, we heard what happened. Our company needs someone we can trust. Are you available? Perfect timing, I replied. I'm launching something new. Would you be interested in being our first client? Send me the details. We're not the only ones looking for someone with your experience and integrity. After the call, Raphael pulled up his contact list. Half the executive team wants to jump ship with you. Elena burned a lot of bridges. Speaking of Elena, Brianna interjected, checking her phone, she just took a plea deal. 3 to 5 years plus restitution. A knock at the door made us all turn. My father stood there, looking lost. Can we talk? He asked quietly. In the hallway, he couldn't meet my eyes. I'm selling the house. Moving somewhere smaller. Elena, she took more than just the company from me. Dad, no, let me finish. Your mother would have been ashamed of me. But you protected her legacy. Not by keeping the company, but by standing up for what's right. I thought of all the angry words I'd wanted to say, but they didn't matter anymore. I'm starting something new, something honest. I know, and you'll do it without me, as you should. He pulled out an envelope. But this might help. My personal savings. It's not much, but keep it, I said gently. Start over. That's what I'm doing. Back in the office, Cecilia had arrived with champagne. To new beginnings? To new beginnings, we all echoed. My phone buzzed with another potential client inquiry. The old company was gone, but something stronger was rising from its ashes. Something my mother would have been proud of. Legacy Shield Consulting, I announced, unveiling the new logo to enthusiastic applause from our team. 6 months of hard work had transformed an idea into reality. 3 new client contracts signed this morning, Raphael reported, handing me the files. All family-owned businesses looking for protection strategies. And guess who called? Brianna grinned, walking into my office. Margaret Wilson. Riverside Industries wants to rebuild, and they want us to help them do it right this time. The intercom buzzed. Ms. Chiara? The Business Ethics Committee is here for your keynote speech. Walking onto the stage, I saw familiar faces in the audience. Former colleagues, clients, even some board members from the old company. My father sat in the back, greyer but somehow lighter. Business isn't just about profit, I began, my mother's words flowing through me. It's about legacy, trust, and doing what's right even when it's hard. Phones started buzzing throughout the audience, breaking news alerts. I already knew what they said. Eleanor's appeal had been denied, and her previous victims were coming forward. After the speech, a young woman approached me, clutching a tablet. My family's business. We think someone's trying to do what happened to you. Can you help us? That's exactly why we're here, I smiled, leading her to our conference room where Raphael waited with our protection protocols. Later that evening, Cecilia brought in a familiar face, Margaret Wilson's daughter. She wants to intern here, learn how to protect what her mother rebuilt. When can you start? I asked. Tomorrow too soon, she replied eagerly. My phone lit up with a text from my father. Saw your speech. Your mother would be proud. I know I am. Before I could respond, Brianna burst in. We just got nominated for the Ethics in Business Award. The ceremony's next month. Speaking of ceremonies, Raphael added, the DA's office wants you to speak at their Corporate Fraud Prevention Summit. You're becoming the face of business integrity. I walked to my office window, looking at the city skyline. Our new logo glowed on the building across the street, right where Cunningham Solutions used to be. Your mother always said karma comes full circle, Cecilia remarked, joining me. Elena tried to destroy a legacy. Instead, she helped create a stronger one. My phone buzzed again. Another family business seeking help. Another chance to prevent what happened to us from happening to someone else. Full circle indeed, I smiled, turning back to my team. Let's get to work. We've got legacies to protect. The setting sun cast long shadows across the office, but unlike the shadows of the past, these were reaching toward something brighter, something better, something real. The Ethics in Business Award goes to Legacy Shield Consulting. The applause thundered through the grand hall as I walked to the podium. In the front row, Brianna and Raphael beamed. Cecilia dabbed her eyes with a tissue, and there in the middle of the crowd, my father stood clapping, looking proud for the first time since this all began. This award isn't just for us, I said into the microphone. It's for every family business that chose integrity over profit. For every daughter and son fighting to protect their parents' dreams. After the ceremony, a reporter thrust a microphone toward me. Your former stepmother, Elena, was denied parole yesterday. Any comments? My focus is on the future, I replied, not on those who tried to steal it. Speaking of the future, Raphael cut in, rescuing me from more questions. We have that meeting with the governor's task force on corporate fraud prevention. My father approached as the crowd thinned. I sold the house, he said quietly. Donated most of it to your business protection fund for struggling families. Dad, no, let me finish. I've been watching what you've built, how you're helping people. Your mother's portrait. He swallowed hard. I had it restored. Thought maybe it belongs in your office now. Before I could respond, Brianna rushed over with her laptop. Remember that startup we helped last month? They just fought off a hostile takeover using our protection strategies. They're calling you a guardian angel in the business world. Guardian angel? I laughed. I just did what Mum would have done. About that? Cecilia joined us, holding a familiar leather-bound notebook. Found another one of your mother's journals. This one's different. It's letters to you. She knew someday you'd face challenges. She believed you'd rise above them. My phone buzzed. Margaret Wilson was sending her second daughter to intern with us now. Another legacy to nurture. Ms. Chiara, our newest client, a young woman fighting to save her grandfather's company, approached nervously. Thank you for showing us there's a way to fight back with integrity. I looked around the room, at my team, my supporters, my father, and all the families we'd helped. Elena had tried to destroy one legacy, but had inadvertently helped create a movement. Ready to head back? Raphael asked. Tomorrow's board meeting is about expanding our protection services internationally. Actually, I smiled, I need to make one stop first. Later that evening, I hung my mother's portrait in my office, right where everyone could see it. Below it, I placed our company's mission statement, protecting family legacies through truth and integrity. The light caught the frame perfectly, and for a moment I swore I saw her smile. Some victories aren't about revenge at all. They're about becoming exactly who you were meant to be.